live, right? So yep, so we are live, right? So without any further ado, let's begin. I'll just give an overview of what we are covering in today's session. In last session, we talked about networking, but in this session, we're going to talk about something which almost everyone knows. I'm assuming that all of you might have heard about this someday or the other, which is Git and GitHub, right? So we'll try to understand how Git works and understand how GitHub works and how Git and GitHub plays a very important role in DevOps and CI/CD as overall, right? So let's begin, right? Let me share my screen. Yeah, perfect. So I hope my screen is visible. You guys can just add it in the comment section or in the chat box if my screen is visible to all of you. And so yeah, let's begin with for the Git and GitHub, right? So first of all, we'll try to understand what is Git, right? So understand this, right? Why did I say that in DevOps, Git and GitHub plays a very big role? Because if I talk about the biggest or the largest platform that we have for version control or maybe source code management in today's date, in one word, it's GitHub, right? So every project, whether it be a private project or a public project or an open source project, everything is directly hosted in GitHub, right? So of course, any CI/CD pipeline that you want to create, you have to link it to a repository. Now that this repository can be part of a particular source code management platform, right? It can be GitHub, it can be Bitbucket, it can be GitLab, right? But in most cases, it's GitHub, right? So that's the reason why how GitHub becomes pretty important when you talk about CI/CD as overall. But before beginning jumping into GitHub, let's try to understand what is Git, right? From where the entire concept of GitHub came up. So Git is nothing but it's a version control system, right? So what is a version control system? So let's say you're working in a project and you're working in a project in a collaboration with not many other folks, right? Now everyone will contribute their own source code, right? Everyone will have their own contribution, maybe code contribution, maybe documentation contribution, maybe something else, right? Now, how can you keep a track of everything? So you need a VCS, which you call version control system, to keep a track of all the changes. Like basically, if you see Google Doc, right? Let's say if I'm sharing a Google Doc to you right now, and I'm editing some changes and you're also editing some changes, there is a log feature, right, in Google Doc where we can just go and track the changes, the time period, who has changed it, right? Similarly, a version control system helps us to keep a track of the changes, the code contribution someone else has made, everything in terms of collaboration in a project. It keeps a track of it, right? So of course it makes collaboration with others easier, right? We can test changes in using a VCS as well. So let's say again, testing is a very important part of DevOps overall, right? CI/CD testing plays a very big role. So of course, when you talk about VCS, you can like for something like Git, you can have multiple branches, which we'll cover in the short in the next few minutes, where we can have different versions of your same project, right? And you can have different objective of each version. Let's say you're having one version for testing, you're having one version for production, and you're having one version for the development, right? So everything can be managed using a VCS. And of course, let's say you have by mistake pushed in the wrong code, or let's say you have put in the production a code which is not working, the prototype is not working. In that case, you can easily switch back to the previous stable version of your code which actually works, the prototype that works, right? That's how VCS helps us. Now, what is GitHub, right? So this is VCS, the version control system, right? That's Git for us. Now, GitHub is nothing but it's a web-based hosting service for Git. So Git is the version control system, and GitHub provides us a web GUI, right? A graphical user interface for working around with Git, and the entire we can manage everything that you do in Git using GitHub, using that graphic using the web browser or maybe the application as well, right? So now it provides a remote location for storing your Git workspaces. And let's say if your computer is broken, right, you do not have access to your terminal anymore, how can you access your project? How can you keep a track of everything that has been happening in your project? So that is possible by just directly moving into GitHub, because GitHub will be GitHub is not necessarily associated with your local system, so you can directly move to the GitHub platform and track down everything because that will be stored in GitHub. Cool. Moving ahead, how to use Git. So the first step of using Git, of course, is installation, right? So you try to install Git. Let me share the link of installation with you, right? So you can install Git at first for your system. Now, for your different systems, there are different versions of GitHub. Git, right? And you can just install Git in your local system, add the path to it, and that's it. You're good to go. After that, for GitHub, you just have to now do a normal sign up, and that's it, right? And how it works. So we create a repository. As I mentioned, every project in GitHub is managed with respect to a repository. And we add, push, change, whatever we do, right? I'll cover all of it in a short period of time, but everything that we do it in the repository itself. Cool. Moving ahead. So, okay. So before beginning with this one, right, how can you contribute to open source, or how can you get started with GitHub? Let's just try to understand how to get started with GitHub at first. Now, I'll just share another screen, and let me present you how you can get started with your GitHub project, right? So give me a minute. Let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah, perfect. So you just have to move to Git. First of all, for Git installation, just search Git, and that's it. Git scm.com, right? Just move to the particular place, and you can see it already mentions me download for Mac 2.38.A1. That's a release version which was released on 2022 10.7, right? It's the latest release that we have of Git. So you can easily install that directly. I already have it installed, so I will not install it right now. The next thing that I can do is I can just move to GitHub and get started, right? So let me just move to GitHub. I've already signed up in GitHub, so this is my profile in GitHub. But for you, it will be sign up. So let me just okay, I'll not sign out right now, but again, it's a very normal sign up. You just add your email ID and that's it. You're good to go, right? So that is it. That's how you get started with Git and GitHub overall. Cool. So how can you contribute to a project in GitHub, right? So let's say there is a project and you want to contribute to that project, right? The first step is to have that project in your local systems. And how can you have it? Is using this clone, git clone command, right? So you run a command of git clone, and then you paste the URL of that repository, right? As soon as you put the repository URL, Git will automatically clone, like basically create a copy of that particular project in your local systems, right? And it will be automatically synced with that GitHub repository. Now, once you have it, now you can start making changes to it and then raise a pull request directly from a CLI, right? So that's how you can start contributing to a GitHub project directly from your CLI. So basically, let's say this is an example, a graphical example. Let's say this is a project where we have got a particular file where there's a variables ABCD and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now, as soon as you say git clone URL, right, it will have this entire repository fetched into your local system. So now you have this file of 1, 2, 3, 4 in your local systems, correct? So how can you add a new file, right? So to add a new file, the command is git add and then file name, right? It signals that git the specified file should be tracked for changes. So when you say git add, right? So let's say you have made some changes in the repository, right, in the project, and now you want to push that change, or maybe you want to raise a pull request, right? So the first command that you write is git add and then the file name. Most of the times you add all the files, but recommendably you should add only the files that have changed, right? So this actually tells Git that, you know what, you can use, these are the files that have changed. Now you can track that these are my changes. Now next time someone adds these files, you can track with respect to the previous version that I've created, right? Now the places where the modified files are stored is known as a staging area, right? Files which are not added this way are ignored by Git, so Git will not keep a track of them, right? And git add -a signals to Git that it should be track all the existing files. So let's say if you are trying to extract all the existing files, you run a command which is git add -a, which tells Git that, okay, track all existing files, not that the files that I have necessarily created. Cool. Moving ahead, again, as we were already understanding, right? So this is how you create, add a file name. So let's say you have made changes right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, and now you want to add this file, right? So let's say you've added another variable, say e equals to 5. Now you want to add this to the repository, right? So the first step you do is git add the file name, whichever you have changed, right? As soon as you say, let's assume that the file name was foo.py, right? So you say git add foo.py, right? So as soon as you do that, Git will keep a track of the change that you have made here, correct? And now the changes that will be committed are committed to modified version of foo.py. So the earlier version of foo.py was this, right? You see, this is the earlier version of foo.py, but right now, as soon as you have added e equals to 5 and have added this change, now this is something that you have to commit. Now commit means you are adding this change, right? So this is the modified version, and you'll just try to commit this change, right? Now, what is a commit message, right? So basically, it takes a snapshot of all the files currently on the staging area and commits to the Git's memory. So you just store whatever you have added in the staging area, you just commit it directly to the Git's memory. Now, this snapshot is captioned with a given message, what is the message? The message describes what kind of change you have committed, right? So let's say you have added a project. Let's say in this case, in the earlier case, we added a variable, right? So e equals to 5. So our commit message will somewhat look like git commit -m message e added, right? So that's how you define that. Okay, I have added this file, and this is my new change that I'm introducing, so that other people whom you are collaborating this project with can be aware about the change that you have brought in. Cool. And yep, so you just say git commit -m add line. So we are using in this case a message of add line because we've added another line here. If we already had 4 lines and we are adding the fifth line, right? Add line. So as soon as we say add line, our file gets committed, and now it is stored in the git's memory, right? So the another command that you can write is git commit -am message, right? So this is nearly identical to the previous command, with the added step of applying git add to all the existing track files. So let's say you don't want to commit for everything, right? So you don't want to commit for the file that you have created, right? So you just want to keep a track of the files, which the existing files, every existing file. So let's say I've made a change in the line number 5, and I can directly, let's say, a line edit, but I don't want to do that, right? I want to commit this change for all the files, so that each and every file will be a new file for me, the other users, right? So necessarily I have made changes to them, not necessarily I've made changes to them, but I can still do the same, right? So that in that case, I run a command, say git commit -am and then the message, right? So if we take an example for it as well, it will somewhat similarly look like this. So we just have to change -m to am here. That's it. Cool. Now, what is git status, right? So git status is another command which displays useful information about the repository, like what is the current branch of the repository. We will understand what is a branch in some short period of time. We can understand which are the tracked files, which are the untracked files. We can understand the differences between the local and the remote versions of the repository as well, using the git status command. Now, let's say we were in this stage, right? We have already committed this file, right? Add line. Now, if I run git status here, right? So what happens is the git status will define me that, okay, the current status of it is add line, right? So we are on the branch master. The master is our main branch, the default branch, and your branch is ahead of origin master by 1 commit. Why? So let's assume this was my local repository, right? And we have our main branch here, or the master branch here, right? Now, if you observe here, I have made one change and then I've committed it. So I'm already ahead of this branch. So that's what it's saying, that your local system is on branch master, but your branch is ahead of origin master, which is this, by 1 commit. And you can use git push to publish your local commit. So let's say if I say git push right now, my changes that I've made will directly be pushed back to GitHub, right? So what does the git push does? It uploads the local commits to the remote repository, that is to the computer, uh, from your computer to the GitHub, right? That's it. So let's say if I say git push right now, and as soon as I git push, the committed change that I've made is now in my GitHub version, right, in the default version of GitHub, the default branch of GitHub as well. So this is how the entire life cycle of a GitHub project works like. So you clone the repository, make changes, commit the changes, add the files, and then push the files, right? And then let's say if someone else is doing it, we do something called fetch and pull, which we'll cover in some short time. So what is git pull, right? So it downloads the remote commits to the local repository. Let's say XYZ, your friend has made a change, right? And you are also sorry XYZ has made a change, and now you are also trying to make the same change, right? So how can you understand that what is the change? So you just run a command called git pull, and it will fetch the details. So let's take an example for it as well. So let's say now someone else in the someone else has made a change, right? They have deleted the line b equals to 2 from here, right? So they have removed a line and they've committed the change as well. Now I want to bring this change to my local system. How can I do this? I'll just say git pull in my local systems, and that will automatically remove that line, and it will bring it back to my local system. So now the updated origin is in my local systems as well. So if I say git status right now, it will say on branch master, and it is in sync with the default branch of origin master. Now, what are merge conflicts? Now, very important concept in GitHub, right? So when two collaborators make conflicting changes to the same file, a merge conflict arises, right? So Git will complain when you attempt to git pull, and you'll need to manually resolve the conflict. So let's say there was a file and you tried to change it, and your friend tried to change it, right? So you have sort of both of you have worked on the same pair of code, and you have added some code, and he or she has deleted some code, right? So in this case, a merge conflict will arise, and you will have to manually solve it, because Git will not be able to understand which one is the updated code and which one is the updated push that you should refer to. So in case of merge conflicts, you do a Git pull, and you will get a message showing conflict content, merge conflict in foo.py, automatic merge failed, fix conflicts, and then commit the result. So if you say Git pull right now, it will not work, because you'll not be able to understand, Git is not able to understand which one is the actual code that he should track, right? So let's say in case of merge conflict, this is what it will look like. So let's say you have said b equals to 2, and your friend has said b equals to 0, right? So this is a merge conflict. Now both of you have changed the value of b, so you have to remove this conflict, and then commit the file again, and then push it back. So that's how you will solve the merge conflict, right? So you'll change it, right? So you'll remove, this is your changes, and then the remote changes, as I mentioned, right? So you have changes b equals to 2, and the remote changes means your friend change b equals to 0, right? So how you can solve it? You just have to remove the details which are not necessary for you, and which is the updated code, define it, and then once you have done it, then you just made the new commit and new addition to it, and then you push the file. That's how you will solve the merge conflicts, right? So what is git log? Another command, right? So git log displays a history of commits made in the repository from newest to oldest, right? So let's say you started from working on a repository, and you have been contributing since a long time. Now you want to check the log about who has contributed what, and how many contributions has been made, what kind of files has been changed. So everything can be visible in your local system by just running this command git log. So if you say git log in your local system, it will say that, okay, commit, this is the commit number, right? And the author is Brian, right? Who is your friend, let's assume, right? Who has removed a line, right? So next commit was again by another commit is there, and which is again Brian, and it's another date, right? So which is addition of a line. So this is how you can understand that, okay, this is how you can track the log of a Git, right? So what are the changes? Now what is branching, right? So initially, when you create a repository, each repository by default has a main branch, where your work lives. So it will automatically define your main branch, and Git case it will master. In GitHub it's call it main, right? So sometimes it is useful to create a separate branch in your repository to test new feature. So as I mentioned, right, let's say you have to test a new feature, um, you have to test new features, you have to also bring in production code, you have to bring in development code. So in that case, you create different branches for different operations, right? That's how branching helps us. Cool. Now, this is the first commit. Let's assume that we have made the first commit here, right? Then we have made the changes, right? And then more changes. So then we want to start a new feature, right? So we take a branch from here, right? And this is a main branch which stays right here. So I create another branch and start working on the new feature. Then I keep on working on the new feature. And in the main branch, I fix a bug, right? And then this is my feature branch, this is my master branch, right? So I want to add, let's say now I want to, this is my head branch, which is the where I did not really introduce a new feature, because testing of a new feature is done on a new branch, which is called a feature branch, right? So in this case, I want to change, right? Let's say I want to change my master branch to feature branch, right? Like I want to fix this bug, and now I want to switch that. Okay, this is not my master branch anymore. My master branch is this. So that how I'll just define my head branch to be feature, and that's it. The default branch in this case becomes feature automatically, right? And so how we can do this is merging this both the branches. So let's say I have some changes here, I have some changes here. Now I want to add these changes so that I can get the production level code. So I'll just merge them, and that's it, right? So this was a new branch for me, feature branch. Now I can still continue working on it, but necessarily once I have added the new feature and I fix the bug, I want to merge them, I can merge them, and it's in the main branch now for me, right? So git branch is the command that by default lists all the branches in your repository, right? It has other variants as well, right? And now if you say git branch and then name, let's say git branch xyz, so it will create a new branch with the name of xyz, right? And if you say git branch -d branch, then it will delete the specified branch as well for you. Now, what is git checkout branch? This is another command that we use for switching. Let's say there are multiple branches. Now I want to switch branches. I work on different code right now, right? So I'll just say git checkout to the branch name, and I'll just move to the new branch, right? And if I say git checkout -b branch, it will just create a new branch for me. So -b specifies that, okay, move out of the current branch and then create a new branch with this name, right? And then it'll switch to it directly. And git merge branch, it will automatically merge the current branch with the branch name that you have mentioned, right? Now, what is open source and how Git and GitHub is related to open source, right? So GitHub is a popular home for open source projects, right? Of course, we all know that, right? Again, what is open source projects? The code which is available or freely online, may be redistributed and modified, right? Now, what is forking? This is another important concept in Git and GitHub. So forking means you create a copy of someone else's repository on your profile so that you can contribute to the project, right? So let's say if you want to work on particular project, right, and you want to contribute to the project, the first step is you do not really commit changes to that project. You make a copy of it by forking the repository to your local profile, and then you make changes to it. So basically you are making changes to your copy of that particular project, not their origin project, right? So that's how forking works, right? And so I'll move to a new I'll move to the hands-on session from here, right? So any questions so far? If you have any questions, feel free to just add it. Anyone with any questions? Okay. So there are a lot of many questions in the chat box. Let me just address. What is a GitHub repository? I think I've already covered it, Sarik. GitHub repository is a place where you host your code for collaboration. Um, right. What is the benefit of using Git? We can track changes, we can collaborate, we can have different branches, sorry, for different purposes. Yep. So Git has a lot many benefits. You can just I've already covered a lot, and there are many more as well. You can just serve them. There are a lot many articles available as well. Okay, I'm struggling with initializing a repository again. How to solve it? So okay, we will have this demo right now. How to start with a new repository. So let me just go to my profile and share my screen back. Right. Okay, perfect. So this is my profile, right? And to create a new repository, just have to click on new repository, and that's it, right? So let's say if I click on new repository, I will move here. I'll just give a new repository name. So let's say DevOps. Okay, let me give it like this, right? So Git tutorial DevOps in CDN, right? So the owner is me. Let's go to Dhruv. I'll keep it public, right? And that's it. Create the repository. Cool. So there you go, right? So let's say I want to just add a new project here, right? So let's copy this code entirely. I'll just and move to my terminal. So let me share my terminal screen now. uh, so I hope my terminal is visible to all of you. Cool, looks fine. Well, perfect. So now let me just move to a directory. Let's say I move to a directory, say GitHub, right? So I'm in my GitHub directory, and let's say I create a folder. Let's say give it name as Git tutorial in CDN, right? And then move to this folder, say Git tutorial CDN, right? Perfect. So let me post this. So what we are doing here, let's understand this, right? So I'm saying Git abstract tutorial in the readme file, and then initialize Git, add this file, commit this change using this first commit message, take the branch as main, and then add the remote repository URL, and then push these changes, right? So let's try this. And that's it, right? So let's move to our repository now and see the changes. So if I reload this file, you see my GitHub Git tutorial CDN is created, right? So let's say if I want to add something more here, right? So let me say echo, and then I say I am using Git, right? And then I define the file name. So let me say it to be new file .txt, correct? That's it. So let me put in git status right now, and you'll see that new file.txt is red color. So it's untracked file right now, right? So I need to track it. So how do I track it? I add this file. So I'll say git add new file.txt, right? Let's check for git status again. And you see new file.txt is now tracked right now. changes to be committed, right? This is on the stage right now. I need to unstage this. So I'll say git commit new file created, right? So I've added a new file. Now next step is to push it. So I'll say git push, and that's it. So let's move to our repository once again, reload this, and you see new file.txt is created. How can you create a new branch? Let's test that as well. Move to the terminal once again. So I'll say right now git branch. So right now we are in the main branch, right? So if I have to check out this branch, right, I'll say git checkout and be testing. So I'll create a testing branch here. So I'm in a testing branch now, right? So let's create another file here. So let's say echo I okay, I created a new branch, right? And then I have to track it back to let's say second file dot txt. Works fine, right? That's it. Let's check for git status right now. See, now git's second file is not tracked. So let's say git add second file dot txt added. Now let's check for git status. It's a second file dot txt is tracked. Now we need to push it, right? We need to commit it. Sorry. So let's commit this. So let's say second file created added. Let's push it. Okay, so in this case I have to define my branch as well. So let's say git push u origin testing, right? So we've added it. Let's move back to our repository, reload, right? And you see testing had a recent push less than a minute ago and said compare. So we have got already a branch of testing that we just created in our CLI. And if you see here, we've got second file.txt. So testing had a push 1 minute ago. So testing is ahead. This branch is one commit ahead of my main branch, right? So if I have to merge it to my main branch, I'll just raise a pull request, right? So let's raise a pull. So testing to main, I'll say my first pull request, right? Add a description. I created a new, let's say git GitHub tutorial in CDN for rising PR. Raise a pull request here, right? Now, as soon as I raise a pull request, I can add reviewers. So I can type any name here. So I've got my friend here whom I can assign any project if I want to review. I can assign someone to work, right? I can add labels to it as well. So let's say bug or documentation, whatever. I can do that as well. In Hacktoberfest, you probably have seen Hacktoberfest labels coming in, right? So we can add, say, Hacktoberfest. So that's it, right? So you see now Hacktoberfest label is created here, right? And then you can add a lot of milestones and projects as well. So this is how we raise a pull request. And if I have to check this pull request, then I can just click here and second file created. That I created a new branch, right? And you can review these changes here. I can say no reviewed changes, and then we can just comment it here, right? And let's see if someone else is reviewing this. They can submit the review, right? So we can also squash and merge, rebase and merge, right? So basically rebase and merge means that the one commit from this branch will be rebased and then added to the base branch. Squash means the one commit from this branch will be added to the base branch directly, and merge commit means all the commits from this branch will directly add to the base branch via the merge commit, right? So in this case we'll do merge. So let's say merge pull request, confirm this merge, and that's it. So let's move to git tutorial cdn now. And if you see, the last change that I have made is merge pull request from #1 from code with your testing branch, right? So and you have this new file and second file to create it. Now let's move here to our terminal and say git log, and you see all the logs of changes are available. So this is how you can work around with GitHub and Git. A lot many things can be done. You can explore them by yourself as well. Right. Okay, so there's a lot many questions. Um, what language should we command for using GitHub? There is no language for GitHub. It's all the bash. But you can just use your shell, or you can use the CLI. If you're Windows, you'll use the CLI. If you're using your Mac, you'll be using a terminal. That's it. How can I get connected to you on my social space? You can connect me here. Just ping me up in my LinkedIn, and feel free to connect anytime. Um, yep. So you can connect me here. Can we have a meetup in the near future? Definitely. Anderson, I don't know your real name, but definitely feel free to add up where do you stay, which location. I think CDN is hosting a lot many meetups in the upcoming days as well. So we are, looking for partners and collaborators. Definitely. Um, cool. So that was pretty much it about today's session. Any questions so far? Anyone? Any question that you have? If you have any questions, feel free to feel free to add them up. I'll take few questions and then we will wrap the session. Anything? Anyone? Yes, I'm available on LinkedIn. You can just check out the site that I've shared. You'll find my LinkedIn there. You can directly ping me up on LinkedIn. Yeah. Of course, Azhar Khan, freshers are definitely eligible for DevOps jobs. I think I'm particularly working in a DevOps jobs right now. So it's all about skill. If you are a skilled DevOps engineer, companies are looking forward to hire the talent. You just have to be skilled enough to, just get the job done for the company. That's it. Cool. That's it for today in this case. Okay. Bitbucket is another. Okay, let me just share what is Bitbucket as well. So if I just go to Google and search Bitbucket, it's another, um, Git-based source code repository hosting service. Right now, it has got pricing and not many features. So companies use it because you can integrate Jira and everything with it. Right, it's an Atlassian product. Right. So again, that's depends. Like it's a basically a Jira. This provides the most high class Jira integration, which works great with CI/CD. So companies prefer working with Bitbucket, but again, does the same job as GitHub does. That's it. Cool. So with that, we'll wrap this session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. We'll catch up in the next session. That is tomorrow. Sorry. Now, tomorrow's session is on Linux commands, right? Getting started with Linux, and so yep. Just you can just get a prerequisite on Linux as well. Let me just I'll be you can find all the links in the in the channel about how to get started with Git and everything. The presentation will also be made available to you. So yep, looking forward to catch up with all of you again tomorrow. Till then, stay safe and keep learning. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everyone for joining in. Thank you so much.